In tonight's Big Story Breakdown, we are exploring Governor Kevin Stitt's veto spree. So far, he has vetoed 14 bills, including one that would require insurance providers to cover more breast cancer screenings.
Fox 25's David Chasanoff joins us live after speaking with the author of the bill. And David, she has a special tie to the cause.
Adam and Wendy, that's right. State Rep Melissa Provenzano is currently battling breast cancer, and she tells me she's shocked about the veto, especially after seeing how both sides of the aisle supported her.
Representative Provenzano, regardless of party lines, I guarantee it, I can speak for everyone saying we all care about you.
It was beautiful to see Republican and Democrat fall away to human.
On March 10th at the Capitol, House lawmakers wore pink to support State Rep Melissa Provenzano. The elected official from Tulsa presented her bill, which would expand an Oklahomans' access to breast cancer screenings. Nearly everyone in the chamber voted for it.
I choose to hang on to that and not let the opinion of one man tarnish that.
On Tuesday, Governor Stitt vetoed House Bill 1389.
I was stunned, because 1 in 8 women in the nation are diagnosed this year, 1 in 6 in Oklahoma.
He says government mandates make prices go up for everyone.
I'm deeply sympathetic to women across Oklahoma who've battled breast cancer, and I wish nobody had to deal with breast cancer.
Provenzano argues expanding access to screenings shouldn't make insurance rates increase.
The veto message was a little weak, I felt, and I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
She says she reached out to the governor, but hasn't heard back yet.
You'll find that the human condition supersedes profit, and that we can be better.
And Provenzano tells me she believes there's support from both parties for a veto override, and she actually submitted a request earlier this morning. Reporting live at the state capitol, David Chasanoff, Fox 25 News.
David, thank you. Lawmakers are expressing frustrations with the governor's decision to veto more than a dozen bills that made it to his desk.
Fox 25's Capitol reporter Paige Taylor spoke with legislative leaders about the response they're seeing and the next steps being considered.
The governor has started signing bills as they come to his desk. While he has already signed many into law, he has also vetoed more than a dozen, causing disappointment among some lawmakers. A bill to expand access to diagnostic mammograms is one of the bills the governor did not sign.
Representative Provenzano and myself and other women in the legislature are working, putting an effort together to communicate to the governor this was the wrong decision and figuring out an override plan. I don't quite know what that looks like yet, but we are putting in an effort.
Governor Stitt also vetoed Senate Minority Leader Julia Kurtz's bill to extend the tenant eviction notice period.
I think the bigger issue is, a lot of the bills we're running are to support everyday Oklahomans. And so, for instance, my eviction bill, the people who care the most about that are renters and people who serve the homeless. When you know that you don't have anyone that has the governor's cell phone number, your issue's going to have a harder time getting the attention, right?
Senate Pro Tem Lonnie Paxton says some Republican lawmakers have come to him about veto overrides for their bills.
Senator Weaver on a couple of bills that he had vetoed, Senator Stanley on the mammography bill.
He says it's something that will be looked at starting next week.
So yes, we were talking about those. Those are definitely something that we're going to discuss. It's just a busy week trying to do everything else.
Paige Taylor, Fox 25 News.
The eviction bill Senate Minority Leader Julia Kurt mentioned is Senate Bill 128. That would give given tenants more additional days, to gather rent. 5, they could also arrange childcare or arrange to take off work for eviction hearings. The measure would also require a summons to be served at least 7 days before a trial date instead of 3. Now, Kurt says this is reasonable legislation, taking into account both the property rights of the landlords and the importance of Oklahoma families to have stable housing. Now, in his veto message, the governor said that existing procedures already provide, quote, adequate due process and notice, and believes the bill would not assist renters but would incentivize landlords to specifically not rent housing units to low-income households for greater eviction costs. And Stitt said we cannot overcome economic realities with good intentions.
The governor has also vetoed 2 pieces of legislation from Senator Darrell Weaver, including Senate Bill 37. It would allow the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation to respond to a mass casualty event caused by a violent crime without a request from a local law enforcement. It would also create the Mass Casualty Revolving Fund for OSBI, funded through legislative appropriations, federal grants, or any other source. The fund would cover the cost of investigating mass casualty events. Under the bill that the legislature passed, there would be no direct fiscal impact to the state, but the agency could seek funding mechanisms in the future. In the governor's veto message, he says he's committed to protecting all 4 million Oklahomans from those who seek to harm them, but growing government and creating new unfunded revolving funds will not accomplish that. He says if law enforcement needs more money to protect Oklahomans, they should approach that request through the normal appropriations process. The governor also rejects a bill that would fund an office solely focused on missing and murdered Indigenous cases. His decision leaving tribal members frustrated.
As Fox 25's Tanya Motorzitsky explains, supporters hope the bill would have been a meaningful step forward.
Tribal members and leaders continuing to voice their frustrations over Governor Stitt's actions.
Seems like a continuation of his grudge against the tribes. He has been in this back and forth, more him pushing and us just saying, what's going on here?
Tulsa Democratic Party Chair Sarah Gray, who's also Cherokee, Muskogee Creek, and Kiowa, says Stitt's decisions to veto House Bill 1137 would have amended the existing IDA's law that currently is in place. Right now, IDA's law requires for federal funding, but House Bill 1137 would have eliminated those requirements and be instead transitioned to state funding. According to the National Institute of Justice, Oklahoma is the third highest state in the country for missing Indigenous people, and this year so far, we've seen 89 missing tribal people. To have more resources is something Gray says has been pushed from state leaders.
We've got plenty of money in the bank to fund it. We're not reliant on the federal government. It seems like this should be a perfect bipartisan bill that the governor could get behind.
In a statement from Olivia Gray, the CEO of the Indigenous Advocacy Institute and founder of Noise, she says Governor Stitt's veto of House Bill 1137 is not just a political maneuver. It is a willful act of harm against Native families across Oklahoma. It is one more example in a long line of decisions that make clear where his priorities lie, and Natives' lives are not among them. Tanya Motorzitsky, Fox 25 News.
The governor's veto message states he supports efforts to solve missing persons and homicide cases. However, he cannot endorse legislation singling out victims based solely on their race. He says Oklahoma already has both the Missing Persons Clearinghouse and the Cold Case Unit within OSBI, which are tasked with investigating disappearances and unsolved cases across all communities. The governor says creating a separate office prioritizing cases based on race, quote, undermines the principle of equal protection under the law and risks sending the message some lives are more worthy of government attention than others. The governor also vetoed Senator Weaver's bill, SB 54, which would update aggravated DUI laws. The measure would expand the definition of aggravated DUI to include individuals convicted of driving under the influence while also committing other offenses like causing a crash, eluding police, or speeding. Under the current law, it's defined as operating a vehicle with a blood alcohol concentration point of 0.15 or higher. Senator Weaver says it should also modify the sentencing guidelines for certain offenses. For example, for a first aggravated DUI offense, the first 10 days of the sentence is not subject to probation, suspension, or deferral. The governor says while he shares the legislators' commitment to public safety and holding impaired drivers accountable, he cannot support this bill in its current form. And he feels the courts must be able to consider the facts of each case and tailor sentences accordingly, especially for nonviolent and first-time offenders. According to the governor, imposing one-size-fits-all penalties risks unjust outcomes and unnecessary incarceration.
The governor won't be signing off on Senate Bill 465. That measure would exempt higher education institutions from the limitations currently in place for both charitable alcohol beverage event licenses and charitable auction licenses. However, the governor says no other charitable groups would get the same break this legislation provides. He believes the bill shows institutions of higher education are seeking special treatment. The governor says the legislature should pass a law that removes the limit for all charitable and nonprofit organizations. And that was your big story breakdown tonight. You can find a link to all 14 bills the governor vetoed on OKCFox.com.